right, everybody, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. And this is the same hat that Brock Purdy's dad wears. Chat loves it when Marty Lurie comes on.
Anytime you lose a game this time of year, when you can't go backwards, it's a problem.
All right, welcome on in. NorCal Sports Network. Thursday night football just ended. Packers defeated the Washington. I'm just going to call them the Redskins. All right, how's that?
Yeah.
There we go.
I dig it.
So Packers, they look like they might be the team to beat in the NFC this year. I don't know. That defense is pretty tough. But something called pressure. I don't know. We'll talk about putting pressure on the quarterback. The 49ers know what that is.
Nope.
All right, everybody. Welcome on in. We'll get to 49ers and we'll talk about the season. It's just underway, and are they in trouble already with all the injuries they're facing? Before we do that, let us thank our sponsor of this show, Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group, located in Marin, licensed in all of California. Check out Chapman Law Group, 415-613-9483. Hey, if you got a personal injury situation, make sure you don't settle with an insurance company before calling Chapman Law Group, and let them know NorCal Sports Network sent you. All right, Los. Niners, they get off to a start of winning their first game in kind of thrilling fashion at the end. And it was quite a while. Quite an opportunity the 49ers had in getting that victory. Jake Tonjes with the incredible catch. Some people think it was a little reminiscent of the catch in 81 NFC Championship with Dwight Clark. But, the outstretched hands and the tight end body. Dwight Clark looked like a tight end, really. But he was a wide receiver. But, hey, let's go into this week. Where do you think the Niners stand? Brock Purdy, news now out. He's got some form of turf toe, 2 to 5 weeks. That's my guess is you're probably looking, the way the things go for the Niners, probably closer to the 5 weeks. They're saying 2. He's going to miss 2. It always seems to be more. But give us your take on the Niners, where they're at with injury, and how does that bode for them with their upcoming games. They've got New Orleans this week, in Louisiana, down in New Orleans, and then they come home for the Arizona Cardinals. And the Rams game, is that first game at home too? Game 4, or is it in LA? I'll look it up.
I believe it might be on the road.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Hey, but for you Giants fans out there, we'll get this right out of the way. This is a 49er show tonight. Yes, we are aware that the Mets lost. Believe me, I know exactly what's going on. It's like telling, I'm not going to use that analogy. That's not a bad analogy. I'm not going to use that one that was going to come out of my head. But look, the Mets lost. Wait, let me do this. Hold on. Let's have some fun with this. Whoa! Serious? The Mets lost tonight? I did not know that. It's almost 9:00, and I know their game ended, and I happened to watch every last pitch of the last 3 innings, so I think I knew it was going on. But, Steven, thanks for – I know you're meaning well. I'm just having some fun. Thanks.
Still alive.
Giants are only a game and a half out, but technically 2.5 because of the tiebreaker. So, but let's get to the Niners. Los, you are a big content creator. Talk on this show. You're on other shows. You go on Poly Mac show. You go on Grant. Give us your take on this Niner team, the way it's looking, and the headline on the thumbnail of the Niners in trouble. What do you think?
It's an interesting question because, like, what's the definition of are they in trouble? Like, are they in trouble as far as being a playoff team? Are they in trouble of being a Super Bowl contender? They're in a little bit of trouble because just from the beginning of camp, the injuries were just popping up left and right. And a lot of us were just saying, like, damn, they can't stay healthy in camp. How are they going to make it through 17 games? People got to understand, this is not a 14 or 16 game schedule anymore. It's 17 games. And rosters that are deep, I think, are better equipped to do well in the long run. And I think the Niners roster construction from the very get-go was very top-heavy. They don't have the depth that they used to, and you're not going to when you have to pay a lot of guys a lot of money. So it was inevitable that they would take maybe a little bit of a step back. But losing your quarterback and losing your all-pro tight end really makes things difficult. Mac Jones is going to come in, and I'm seeing a lot of people say that, well, he's a pretty good quarterback, and he's going to be able to do some things. Shanny will dial it up. Well, that's great, but you got to remember, Purdy was running for his life last week, and he's mobile. Mm-hmm. Okay. A lot of us are not really thrilled about how this offensive line was put together. That same offensive line is going to be out there Sunday, and I got news for you. Mac Jones is not mobile. So Shanahan, I think, is going to have a heavy dose of a running game and a lot of three-step drops and get the ball out quick to be able to just get by. Right now, they're in survival mode. They just have to get by, Danny. They have to get by the Saints, who they should still beat even with the injuries. The Cardinals is going to be tough because they got a pretty good defense. So they're going to challenge that offensive line. And
then they got the Jaguars at week 4. Yeah. And that's at home. So first 2 on the road. Then they got 2 home games with the Cardinals and then the Jags. And then they go to LA to face the Rams. And then that's probably their toughest part of the schedule, week 5 and 6. They got the Rams and then Tampa in Tampa. So I think that's might be their 2 toughest games, especially back to back. And Houston's going to be a tough game on the schedule in Houston. But what do you think of this, Los? Do you think there's a possibility, because of the way the schedule lays out, that even with the injuries, do you think there's a possibility they can win those first 4 games? New Orleans, they should be able to beat in New Orleans still, even without Kittle and without Purdy. And then they come home, Arizona. It's a winnable game. It's a home game. Even though it's a tough game, it's a winnable game. And the following week should be a winnable game against Jacksonville. If you can get to 4-0, and maybe you get Purdy back against the Rams, maybe not. Let's say even if they're full strength, they lose to the Rams and they're 4-1, and then you get Kittle back and Purdy back. Things could look pretty different in a good way.
Yeah, I think they need to survive for the first half of the season. Just get through the first 7 or 8 games or so, because I think the Niners, if they can even be 500 in the first 8 games, they're going to get Ayuk back. They're going to get, Kittle back. They're going to have their young defensive players who are kind of learning on the job are going to be a little bit better, hopefully a little more seasoned. So I think the second half bodes well for the Niners, doing pretty well. But they got to make it through these first 7 or 8 games. And they can't keep losing people because they're not a deep team. They just don't have a lot of depth. They have a lot of unproven people behind their superstars. And let's face it, their superstars are all older, especially on the offensive side. So they can't be losing any more people. If CMC goes down, good Lord, it's not going to be pretty. So this is where coaching comes into play. This is where you have to adapt and change, and you can't do everything you want to do because you don't have your quarterback, you don't have your tight end, and you're going to have to change things up again. So this is going to be a challenge to Shanahan and the rest of the staff to be able to make do with what they have.
Now, I think the one good thing that's several things, but one big thing that was really a great move, I think, on the part of Kyle and the 49ers is they went and actually got a legitimate backup quarterback that was a number one draft choice in the same year of Trey Lance. There was talk he was going to come here at number 3. He's experienced. He's a national champion with Alabama. He's accurate. He's a quick thinker. He makes good, decisive decisions. As you mentioned, he's not very as mobile as Purdy in the pocket. And if that protection breaks down, could be in trouble. But I think about this. If this was a year ago and you lost Purdy to start your season and no Kittle, and you had the quarterbacks the Niners had last year, you might be looking at 1-4. I mean, that backup quarterback is a critical position, and I think you're going to see some good things out of Mac Jones, because the one thing I loved about him at Alabama was, now difference, he had great receivers. I mean, he had great offensive line, great receivers, but he went through his progressions and he made decisions. And this offense, the West Coast style that Kyle runs, and McVay and so many others now, but it's built on timing. And if he's an accurate passer, I think they're going to have to scheme it where you're probably going to have some 3 tight end sets, or not 3 tight end, 3 wide receiver sets a lot, with Farrell staying in the block, because that's what he's known for, is blocking. Because if they run, normal sets with just the 1 tight end or 2 tight ends and 2 receivers, that's what Kittle was going to be used a lot this year, as kind of that 3rd wide receiver. And they brought in Farrell specifically to block. Now I think you're going to have to go 3 wide receiver a lot this week and just leave Farrell in completely.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, Mac Jones can do a few things better than Brock. He's got a better arm, and he throws a real nice deep ball. So the deep ball has not really been a staple of Shanny's offense the last several years. Do you see it here and there? Yeah, but you don't see it very often. Most of his routes are intermediate and they're over the middle. So Mac Jones is going to be able to do some things throwing outside to the edges with velocity, being able to throw a deep ball. Pearsall, don't be surprised if Pearsall catches a deep one. Because so many teams are so used to the 49ers breaking off their routes, 10, 15 yards down the field and going over to the middle, because that's the staple of Shanahan's offense. And now all of a sudden, if they do a double move and they go to the middle and then they go to the post, they're gonna be like, oh, wait a minute, we're not used to that. Mac Jones will be, if Mac Jones has the time, and that's the key. I keep emphasizing that this is not a very good offensive line. If he has the time, he can catch some. He can get some deep balls on this Saints secondary.
Yeah, and this turf toe, Sully says, can linger. Yes, absolutely, it can linger for a whole year. If you don't take care of it right, it can ruin a career. I'm not exactly, turf toe sounds so innocent, like, oh, would you stub your toe on the turf? But it's kind of like a slight, isn't it? Its definition more of a dislocation. I believe turf sprains of the ligaments at the base of the big toe. It's typically caused by a hyperextension of the big toe. Often,
I saw something pretty hilarious, Danny, on X, talking about Purdy's turf toe. Somebody said, "Yeah, Ronnie Lott, we know what he would do. He would just cut it off. He would just cut it off."
There we go.
Like, yeah, that's not a finger, bro. It's like that's a toe, and your quarterback kind of needs to push off when he's throwing the ball with your feet. But yeah, it's from what I understand. I've never experienced it or had it, but I understand it's very painful. And there's not just a little device or something that you can wear or brace for your toe that can make it any better. I mean, and Purdy he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, so he needs to be able to push off of that foot to be able to get
Right.
velocity down the field. So, he doesn't have a rocket arm like Penix
Right.
or some of the other quarterbacks in the league. So, and honestly, he relies on mobility a lot. So he's not able to scramble around and make plays. So, yeah, give him time. I think Mac will do a good job. I think they'll devise an offense that'll work for him. They don't need to score probably a lot of points against this Saints team to win. But really, the big key for me in this game, Dan, is they got to put them away early. If they let them hang around,
Yes.
and they're within 3, they're within 1 score in the third
Yeah.
quarter, in the fourth quarter, that's playing with fire, because like the special teams still didn't look good last week.
Right.
And that Superdome, I've been there, is extremely loud. All it takes for them is to block a punt. And, oh my God, here we go. So don't let the game be close. Put them away.
Yeah. You just
early.
got it. Yeah, I've been to a couple of Saints games myself when I lived down that way for a short while. And
Great fans.
Yeah, great fans, and they love, whether their team stinks or not, they show up. They're loud. It's going to be, what the Niners need to do is just do kind of what they used to do when the Saints were in their division, and when in the Walsh years, they would just go down there and spank the Saints. Just put it to them. The Niners are a different team when they're up by a score or even 2 scores. Totally different team, but I do want to see, and I one thing I don't want to see, even with Mac Jones as a backup. Look, he's a backup, but he's a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. Is he a top tier 1, tier 2 quarterback, tier 3? If you I don't know how many tiers you want to go. There's probably 30 teams. You could probably go 6 tiers, right? Just 5 guys in each tier. He's probably in that 4th tier.
Would you pick him up and start him in fantasy, Dan? That's the true indication about how much you really have confidence in him.
Well, that's the point I'm getting at with Kyle. It's frustrating because I want to see the Niners put their foot on the gas pedal on teams, and not, if you get up 10-0, don't just get conservative. Keep doing what's working until they do something to stop it. So if the passing game is working or the running game is working, if it's working, just keep doing it. I loved how Bill Walsh used to do that. He would mix it up a little bit, but he would keep going until you made an adjustment. And if you weren't going to make the adjustment, if you're going to give me 5 yards on a sweep every stinking play, I'm going to take it. And this is the thing that Kyle seems to not do. He'll tend to do this, he'll just keep running or pat one of the two, and and it's not even working at times, and he'll keep forcing it, trying to force it. I want to see the 49ers actually put a team away like the Saints. I mean, now that Kittle's out, they should still win by a touchdown or more. I know that the line dropped from, the Niners were -7 and now they're -3. Okay. It shouldn't be that close.
Yeah. Agreed. The Saints are not a good team.
No, they can't score.
Yeah. Well, I will say one thing. Their quarterback is mobile.
Yeah.
And mobile quarterbacks have, in the past, given the Niners problems, not by throwing the ball, but by running. So I would expect their game plan to be to bootleg and do whatever they need to do to get a win. They know they're outmanned talent-wise, even with the Niners' injuries. They're still outmanned. But they may come up with a game plan where their quarterback is doing an awful lot of running. So keep an eye for that. But that just goes back to the Niners they've got to score touchdowns and not kick field goals. Kicking field goals just lets a team hang around. We've seen it so often with this team, and they got to be able to put bad teams like this away. Have a 24-7 or 24-10 type of lead at halftime.
Well, let's talk about the kicking game. They just hired Eddie Pinero, He's, I believe, the third most accurate kicker in NFL history. He's got an 89% roughly success rate on field goals. His long, I believe, is like 56 yards. Everybody kind of thought it was going to be Greg Joseph because he was in camp and he worked with Boyle, the special teams coach, and but Panero worked with him too. And you probably, I didn't follow the cuts this year like that closely. Was Panero cut in the last wave of cuts by, I know he was with Carolina, right?
He was with Carolina. He was with Carolina last year, I believe.
Yeah. Did they cut him early on? Was he available during, summer camp, or was he on another team? Maybe someone in the chat could bring that up. I didn't follow it that close. I'm not looking at kickers constantly, but if he became available, that's a huge thing. Okay, Steve-O says Eddie was on last year, got hurt growing in preseason. Okay, this year he got hurt, so he got released. That's a huge pickup if he's healthy. Hopefully he's 100%, because Greg Joseph has maybe a little bit bigger leg over Panero, a couple yards maybe. I've seen Joseph hit him from 58. He's got a big leg, but he also is an 82% accuracy, where Panero's like 89. I think the Niners say, hey, look, we already got a big leg in Moody. We need accuracy.
Yeah, that's it right there. I think the Niners have been tired of having a guy that has a big leg and can hit from 57, 58 here and there, but consistently misses 30, 35, 40-yard field goals. Those are gimmies right now. And I think the team was getting frustrated. I mean, the sideline reporter was mentioning people were throwing helmets, and you can lose the locker room when you as the coach get up there and you say, yeah, we have confidence in him, knowing damn well that the players don't. And I think behind the scenes, I think a few of the Niners leaders went up to Kyle. Maybe Lynch had a talk with him. They all had to talk together, and because they quickly changed their mind. Right after the game, Kyle said that he was still going to be the kicker, and then 24 hours later, they pivoted and went the other way. You're a former kicker, Dan. How does a guy that has a 69 to 70% field goal accuracy have a job, and a guy like Panero and some of the other ones that were available that were 86, 88, 89% accurate? How are they out of work?
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roster politics.
Roster politics. And he's your guy. You like him. You drafted him. And, they tried to make a square peg fit into a round hole with Moody. They just kept pushing it, trying to force it. Look, kicking is about confidence. It really is. When I was on, I knew I would never miss. But after I had a couple of misses a couple times, and then you see your teammates get a little disappointed with you, especially, high school and college. You got your guys are busting ass, working.
Is it very similar to golf when you miss a few putts and then you get back up there on the putting green and you're just thinking about it too much and then you end up.
Yeah, I went into a streak one time where I never missed an extra point. Okay. And back then it was 20 yards.
20 yards.
Okay. It's like, it just, and I didn't miss many field goals either.
Did you, we never talked about that, Dan. Did you like that rule when they made extra points go back to like 30 yarders instead of 20 yarders, or do you think they should?
The NFL, I think it's fine. I mean, shoot, it's a 32-yard kick. They kick it from, or 33, whatever.
Yeah. It's
still straight. I mean, nothing changes in your mechanics. It's just where your plant foot is. If your plant foot is straight down the middle of the goalpost, that's generally where the ball's going to go. It's when your plant foot goes this way, you're going to cook the ball to the left. And if And if the plant foot goes too far to the right, you're kicking it to the right. The plant foot is your key. And that's why you have to just constantly do rep. But it's confidence thing.
Yeah.
So what happened was, at least for me, and I think this is what happens with kickers, they get the yips. They go out there and they think, I can't miss. I can't miss this. I can't miss it. Rather than I'm going to nail this. I'm going to make this. It's all what you tell yourself. And don't kid yourself. These guys are professional, but they're humans. They're talking to themselves for the kicks. And it's what you put in your head. And I got into a slump in my first year in college. And I missed a couple. And they weren't extra points, but they were field goals. And then I just got in my head because I could see the team was losing confidence in me. And I was like, shoot, I can't miss this. I can't miss this versus I wasn't confident in saying, I'm going to nail this. And my misses continued for a period of time. And then, I could hear the coaches talking on the side. You're on the sideline, you hear, they're pissed off, and players get really pissed off. They won't say it publicly, but down deep, they're working their asses off. They're getting sweating and beaten, and then the kickers over there on the side just,
You're gonna love this.
Having some water and kicking.
You're gonna love this story, but I actually spoke with someone that knows the Ray Wersching family and knows Ray from back in the day. Now, for you old schoolers, remember Ray Wersching? He never looked up. He never looked up at the upright before he kicked. And this individual told me because he couldn't see. He's had like 20/40 vision.
Just looked at the hash marks.
And I'm like, what? A kicker can't see and he's kicking? And, back then contacts weren't soft and how they were now. So, and he wasn't going to wear glasses under his helmet at that time. So he couldn't really see good. And if you remember Ray Wersching, he would line up and he would just start touching Montana, who was his holder on the shoulder. Right. And Joe would tell him, okay, we're on, it's lining up at the 32. It's going to be 42-yard field goal. We're on the left hash mark. We're straight away. We're right away. And that was it. He never looked up. That's crazy. He didn't have good vision, but that dude was money. Go figure. So translation is, if you want to be a great kicker, don't have good vision.
It's kind of like if you bowl, a lot of times you don't look at the pin so much. You look at those little things, those little markers.
Those arrows?
Yeah, those arrows. If you're bowling, man, that's how I use. Okay, if you look too much at the pin, sometimes you're aiming instead of just putting it, But it's funny. Somebody said a hook is to the left and a slice is to the right. I think I said, didn't I say a hook to the left? If you go left, it's a hook. Did I not say? I said a hook, and then if you go to the right, sliced it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that.
Highlight Cliff Martinez. What a classic comment.
Being a kicker is no duck walk anymore. Let me tell you.
It's a Scarface line. Oh my God, these guys, man, we're back and forth with Scarface. I love it.
Wow.
But the hopefully Eddie Pinero's only kicking extra points this weekend. Because again, if they let the Saints hang around, they're playing with fire. If they go down on their first drive and the drive stalls, Mac Jones gets sacked and he has to come in and oh boy, his first kick is going to be huge because everybody's watching. And he even said it when they interviewed him yesterday. He's like, I know if I don't make kicks, I'll be out of here. That's a real honest take. I like that.
Right.
So I think he'll be fine, but let's not rely on him to kick field goals. You got to put this team away by halftime, middle of the third quarter. You let them hang around, and it's going to get ugly, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah, I just put up a little note there for you in the private chat, just for your FYI there, just so you're aware.
Nice.
Next, yeah. So, well, guys, I know we have a lot of people here watching via YouTube and other streams through X and maybe other platforms. Right now, we have almost 500 here in the house watching. Los, this Niner offensive line, I know it's been a source of contention for you for years now. This particular offensive line right now looks like it may be the worst one in years. McKivitz, who just signed an extension, he might, the right side might be better than the left side right now.
Could be.
Did you see the pressures that Trent Williams gave up in week one?
He looks out it. He looked old, and he definitely looked out of shape. He's an all-time great, so you give him benefit of the doubt and see if he can be in shape by week 3 or week 4. But I got a question. Like, you're one of the highest paid linemen in NFL history. You're a leader on this team. Why the hell aren't you in shape by the time camp comes? What a horrible example to bring. You know, it's just sometimes you see some of these Niners that sign the big contracts, and right after they sign it, their play tails off. And Trent's has played tailed off because he's just older. Father Time just is undefeated. I think he's still a good player. He's not an all-pro. He's not a great player. If you go back and watch the film, that Seattle Ed dude, like, didn't just beat him speed-wise, like got into his chest and pushed him back, and he outweighed him by 100 pounds. So the offensive line has been a long-standing source of frustration for me because of the philosophy of the organization, the coach, the general manager. They didn't have to give Colton McKivitz $45 million for 3 years if they had drafted an offensive tackle. And by the way, the Niners are the only organization in the NFL that has not signed or not drafted a center or a tackle the last 3 years. The last 3 years, not one. They draft guards, but not tackles and centers. And ever since they came on the scene in 2017, they have put so much capital into the defensive line, which is great, but this is not the 90s anymore. Like, you know, it's an offensive quarterback-driven league, and I'm a big believer in Brock Purdy. I think he's a hell of a quarterback. And his 2 things that he does the best is process and throw an accurate ball. Can you imagine if they built a solid offensive line in front of him and he actually had time to throw? The narrative and the chatter that I hate is, well, Shanahan will scheme it up and we'll be able to, get by with just an average line. Well, why do we have to? I mean, why couldn't they just draft a few, people in the first or second round? I know McGlinchey was a miss, but just because you missed on one time doesn't mean you stop drafting and getting that. Brock Purdy, to me, if he had a better offensive line and he was given complete autonomy to audible to any play, not just 2 plays like he's given now, he would elevate even higher than he already is. I think he's held back a little bit because of those 2 things. So
yeah. I wanted to, talk about this whole thing with this offensive line, because the concern with me with Trent is I'm hoping that he just plays himself into shape over the course of the first few games, and that he did this veteran thing and just, tried to pace himself for a long 17, 18 weeks plus season plus potential playoffs. And you hope that he's learned his body enough that he just says, well, I don't want to come into camp and peak in week 12 and fizzle out. And so I'm hoping that's what the case is. But if you take a look at week 1, Los, here's the pressures that Trent Williams gave up: 6 pressures, 1 hit, plus 5 hurries. That is 12. And you look at Barch, only 2 hurries. Brendel, this is a shock to me. No pressures in pass protection.
That's BS. I don't know.
I got to go back I may have to go back and look at the all 22, because during the game I saw him on his butt. I saw him getting pushed backwards. But
yeah, that's AI. AI has no place in football. Like, Jake Brendel gave up. he got knocked on his ass at least 5 or 6 times, which is a common occurrence for him. Trent Williams, yeah, he got beat quite a bit. And Dan, the Saints' best pass rusher, I believe, is Jordan from Cal.
Yep.
And he's a good edge, so he's probably going to be lined up on both sides, and he's going to go back after the first series and tell the coaches, hey, Trent is a little bit out of shape. I think I can get him. Or he'll say, no, I'm having better success against McKivitz. So again, this is where coaching and game planning comes in. Jordan is their best pass rusher. Don't let him beat you. If your tackles are struggling, then you got to double team them. Keep in the great almighty Luke Farrell, who they gave $7 million to, keep him on one side and help him block out, double team the edges. They can't let Jordan beat them, because the other linemen on the Saints are, they're kind of no names, but you never know. They're NFL players. They could disrupt and do something, because I'm telling you, the only guy I'm really confident in is Pony. I don't have a lot of confidence in Trent until he gets in shape. Ben Barch is injury prone. He's fragile as hell.
Is he playing this week, or is
I don't know,
the rookie from Iowa in there?
Yep, it might have to be Colby. I think Brendel's one of the worst centers in the league. But if you listen to the coach and the offensive line coach, they think he's great. We all have good eyesight. I think we do. We all see it. Yeah, it's demeaning to the fan base to get up there and say, we love Jake Brendel. He's a hell of a player. He's really smart. When they say a player is really smart, that's like going on a blind date and they tell you that the chick, is got a good personality. Really? Okay, she's got a good personality, then she must not look all that great here. So, I don't know, man. Just Pooney's solid. McKivitz is. I'll give McKivitz this. He's gotten better.
Yeah,
he was a shit show a couple years ago. He's gotten better.
I'll give him a work in progress, and he's serviceable. And the offensive lineman, the tackle position, is making so much money. You look at Jalen Moore was a backup and got $15 million to sign with the Chiefs this offseason in free agency. McKivitz probably, if he waited, he could have had a payday of 3 years, $60 million, $20 million a year as a starting offensive tackle in free agency. But I think what happened, Los, and we look at our friend Kyle here, he says Colton wanted to make a few million. Now he's good to go. I'm stoked for him. Think about this. I think he signed the extension Sunday morning before the season opener against Seattle, and they said he went to bed, slept on it. Look, this is how I think I would be if I'm Colton McKivitz. I got a chance, $45 million. I can't remember what the guarantee was, if it was like $27 million.
26 million, I believe.
I'm like, I got $26 million. How much do I need? And what happens if I have this severe injury this year? A pec or a knee blows out, and I'm, somebody only wants to sign me for a 1-year deal, and they give me $10 million next year. And then I get hurt again, and I'm out of the league. I got a chance to secure my lifetime for some generations. You think about it. He's guaranteed 20. Hey, Los, if they said, hey, no more cold calling, no more hunting down leads for mortgages or selling annuities for me, in my case, we're just going to guarantee, you know what? You can just sit back and you're done. We're going to give you $45 million over the next 3 years.
Done. I can sleep in till 10 a.m. and go out and see Danny for lunch, 3-hour lunch. And I'm guaranteed, no matter how many deals I close or how many calls I make, paid. Oh, yeah.
What's that saying? A bird in the hand is better than how's that go? What's that saying go? I'm not good with those sayings. I hear them and then I forget them. a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush or something like that. Or
You're close. You're close.
Somebody
Somebody in the chat will know.
yeah, some. But look, man, somebody going to give you that money in a violent sport where you never know what the next day holds. We see guys go out every game. Tonight, Jaden Reed of the Packers was out. I think I watched the interview that Larry Krueger did with him when he was a rookie, and seemed like just a super nice kid that was just happy to be in the NFL. And he was not even a starter back then. I think this is when they had he was the backup. Was it to McGlinchey at the time? Maybe.
Yeah. He was a swing tackle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Mark Graves. A bird in the hand is worth more than two in a bush. Yeah.
There you go.
I was close. Yeah, I was pretty close. So for him to come to this where he's now a respectable right tackle in the NFL and you're getting that kind of money, man, just be glad you're big and take that money. And I think he did. And you know what? If he plays well and plays it smart and he stays healthy, he could parlay that into another payday.
You know, it's interesting, Kyle's comment. And Kyle, you know I love you, so don't take this personal. But the fan has changed so much over the last 10 or 15 years. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of comments from fans that are genuinely happy when a guy they like, a player they personally like. You know how we feel about, Yastrzemski on the Giants, like getting the money and not being all that productive, and because people love him. And it's interesting to me how fans love individual players more than the team almost. Like I'm always about the team. So when I see a guy that I feel is average or older or not that good, I don't think they need to have the sense of urgency to sign him. Now, in McKivitz's case, they had to because they messed up and didn't plan right by drafting and grooming a tackle who could have been making $1.5 million right now on a rookie deal and been better than McKivitz. But because they like him so much, they kept him around. He did play better, and now they're giving him money that is probably worth more than he actually is worth. And Kyle, hey, God bless you, bro. But he's happy for him. And that's great. But deals like that maybe sometimes hurts the team, because when you give players that are average or again older, and we're seeing it right now with the Niners, their top players that are getting paid are all older. They're all older, and older players get hurt more. So it shouldn't be a shock to anybody that their core players are the ones. Purdy's young still, so I understand that. But their core players that have been hurt over the last few years are all older. So it's just interesting to me that I always back the team. Hey, nobody loved Joe Montana more than I did. When he went to Kansas City, I saw so many Niner fans start wearing Kansas City jerseys.
Yeah.
And when they played each other, they were happy that Joe beat the Niners and Steve Young. I was pissed. I was like, hey, you're off the bandwagon. Don't come back. And I got the last laugh because the Niners won the Super Bowl that year. So you won the battle. I won the war. Stay a Chiefs fan.
Yep. Kyle says he totally understands where you're going on your side with it. He says he's stoked. He shouted out his place. I think he did some hunt. Was it hunt? I saw it earlier in the comment. McKivitz hunts here, my backyard. I'm stoked for him. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a little something personal there. I get it, bro. I get it.
Here's my prediction. I'm going to make a prediction here on, 9/11/2025 that I think the 49ers will probably end up with somewhere around the 22nd, 23rd pick in the draft next year. There's 32 teams, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably going to be, they might make the playoffs, get knocked out, and then there's 12 teams that make the playoffs, right? 6 from each conference.
Yep. So you probably have them at about 11, 12 wins to be at 22, maybe 10.
Yeah, right 10 to 11 I have them at.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, and then they sneak into the playoffs, they get knocked out, and then they get a draft pick around 22-ish. Okay. Here's what I think that this is just wild off the cuff thinking that that's right. 14 make the playoffs, 7 from each conference. That's right. Man, half the league almost makes the playoffs. So let's put them around that 22 mark right in there.
Yep.
It could even be as low as 20. All right. Here's what I think the Niners do. I think Trent Williams retires after this year. And I could see the Niners trading Brandon Ayuk and swapping their first round pick with somebody in the top 6, 7, and then go for one of the top left tackles in the draft. And basically they give that team Brandon Ayuk plus their number 1 pick, and the Niners get a high draft pick for a real good tackle, how do you say a Sewell? Panay Sewell type guy that goes in the top, 6, 7 picks. Get somebody like that, replace and build that offensive line, and they get rid of Ayuk's salary.
What gives you confidence that even with a top pick under Kyle and Lynch, that they would take an offensive lineman next year?
Because I think Trent retires, and I think they have to.
They would have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's frustrating to see what Harbaugh did. He could have drafted another player, a skill player, but Harbaugh believes in offensive line, and he
got to build those trenches. The games are won in the trenches.
It's won in the trenches. And this is what I said, a few months ago. I was like, did any of the 49ers watch the Eagles do what they did to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? This is a team that has haunted you, that you're 0-5 against, that you cannot beat. Did they watch how Philly dominated both sides of the line of scrimmage? That is where the game is going right now. The game is not about Lamborghinis and Ferraris. It's about tanks and being physical at the line of scrimmage on both lines. Niners are great at going after defensive linemen, but it's just completely one-sided. They drafted a kicker and a punter in the 3rd and 4th round before they took an offensive lineman. Just chew on that for a little while. By the way, the nobody questions them. I can't believe the media does not question them on some of the things that they do, but it is what it is. So I think if we had done a preview show, and I guess we could do it right now, kind of, even though we're 1 game in, I thought the Niners would be about 9-8 this year. And I thought that because I thought the O-line was going to hold them back, that they would do well. And this is football. It's not baseball where you play every day and you just come right back 24 hours later. Football, people are ecstatic over the win over Seattle. And they should be. It was a tough environment, tough division opponent. If they really watched the game, they saw a lot of red flags even before the injuries got hurt. And one of the red flags is something that a lot of us just keep saying over and over and over. And we're sorry to beat a dead horse, but until it's corrected, it's going to come up. When the 49ers play a good, strong defensive front, which they will do in the playoffs, their offensive line is going to be exposed. When they play soft teams like the Saints, they could put up 30 tomorrow or Sunday with Mac Jones, and Niner fans are going to be ecstatic. Oh, we can win with Mac Jones. You have to look at the opponent that you're playing, guys. You have to. And I, for one, do not want to be a Dallas Cowboy fan, because you know what the Cowboy fans have been known for years? They get so excited and juiced when they were beating teams in the NFC East, when the NFC East was not that good. Right. And then they got to the playoffs and they played a real team and they got smashed. I don't want to be that. I'd rather honestly not make the playoffs, have a better draft pick and build. the Niners have some nice pieces, some nice young pieces on defense. Marquise Sigala, the safety, nice.
Yeah,
D.
nice.
Winters, nice. Reynaldo Green, nice. Mikael Williams remains to be seen. He's not much of a pass rusher, but he's physical. I think he'll be okay. CJ West, CJ West is going to be okay. They got some nice pieces on the defensive side. Just need to have a few more drafts where they can build, again, focus on the offensive line for once, have some balance. And I think they'll be okay for the future. But I didn't think that they were a Super Bowl contender going into the year. I really didn't. I thought they were just too top heavy. I thought there would be a good team, probably make the playoffs, but like you said, probably get knocked out in 1 or 2 rounds.
Yeah. I'm looking here at the 23 draft. Just decided to look at that, and I didn't realize that they didn't have I knew they didn't have a first round because of the Trey Lance, but the Niners didn't even have a second round pick that year in the draft. And their
talking about the Moody draft?
Yeah, their first pick was at 87. They took Jair Brown.
They had 3 third-round picks. And read off who they took, Dan.
They took Jair Brown at 87th pick, and then they took next at 99. Jake Moody was their second pick in the draft, and then they went with Cam Latu, the tight end from Alabama.
I hated the Latu pick.
That was such a horrible draft. And I'm looking at – I don't know how some of these linemen – I'm not a guy that, plays some fantasy. Obviously, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, any defensive guys are in fantasy. But your offensive lineman, first pick of the 4th round, I'm assuming we'll see him this week. Nick Saldovary, he's with the Saints. And then Blake Freeland went to the Colts, and then Jake Andrews went to New England, and then Anthony Bradford, Seattle. So there was a run on offensive linemen there. Bradford was the big kid from LSU. I'm not following all these offensive linemen, so I don't want to sit here. I can't do what Larry does and know every player, and be on top of baseball as well. But the linemen, it seems like with the Moody pick and the Latu pick, man, you could have picked up at least 1, if not 2 linemen there.
Absolutely.
A kicker? What are you doing picking up a kicker with the 99th pick? You could pick up a kicker. Look, if what's his name? Pizza
Panero.
guy or what? Panero. Okay. Pizza. Pinocchio, Panero. Okay. If this guy is a bust, they can go find another guy tomorrow. Okay. That's how available kickers are. That can.
The Niners have been very they've been very successful over the years, having a retread veteran come and kick for them. Joe Nedney, Robbie Gould, Mike Kofer. I mean, they've had a lot of good kickers.
Yeah.
That were very, very accurate. They didn't have to draft them. You never draft a kicker unless it's maybe the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah, Aubrey. Was Aubrey a free agent, or was he drafted?
He's a free agent. He kicked in the USFL, and Dallas saw how big his leg and how accurate he was in the USFL, and they got him a tryout, and he's a top 3 kicker in this league. Yeah, you don't ever waste a premium pick on a punter or a kicker. Jesus, if Eddie DeBartolo was here and they did that, he would blow his stack.
I want to know who was really responsible for that. Was it Kyle, or was it John Lynch, or Adam Peters? Wasn't he still in the building? Was that his last year? Who made that pick? I would love to know who said, all right, we're taking Jake Moody. Look, I mocked Jake Moody coming to the Niners that year, but not in my 3rd round. I mocked him in the 6th round, I think, because they had a few 6th round picks, and it was like a late pick. And I was like, come on.
Yeah. And kind of going back to O-line, Danny, I think I've done some studying on it. And if you look at the Hall of Fame and you look at offensive linemen, most, if not all of the offensive linemen that are in the Hall of Fame were drafted in rounds 1, 2, or 3. In other words, to get a premium player at that position, you cannot draft them in the 5th, 6th, or 7th rounds. You can't. I mean, go look it up. Maybe you might have a few in there, but the majority of not. Now, if you go to the skill positions, arguably the 2 best quarterbacks in football are Tom Brady and Joe Montana. And they're 6th and 3rd round selections.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are wide receivers you can get that have been Hall of Famers in the 5th, 6th, or 7th
Hey,
round.
what was John Taylor picked? He was picked late.
John Taylor was a 3rd round pick.
Wasn't he? Was he
Yeah.
3rd?
Yeah. George Kittle is a stud. He's a 5th rounder.
5th round pick.
He's a 5th rounder. I mean, I if you just go, I mean, we're just staying on offense here, not on defense, because this is his forte, is the offensive side of the football. You can get talented players if you have good scouts and if you know what you're doing, and get them in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. I know it's a little bit harder, but it really is hard to get good offensive linemen. And I think one of the biggest flaws that the Niners have had is they just think that Kyle's scheme is so good that they can overcome mediocrity and average on the O-line. And that works until the moment that it doesn't. And we all know when it hasn't. In the biggest games in the 4th quarters against the Chiefs. Go back and watch the 4th quarters of both Chiefs Super Bowls. Go back and watch the 4th quarter of the Rams NFC Championship game and focus on the offensive line. They got manhandled when it counted. And that is what drives me absolutely crazy, is stubbornness. I like people that see things, they watch the film, they understand a mistake was made, and then they change and they move off of it. McVay has done that. LaFleur has done that. This coaching staff and this front office has not.
Yes. And you've got to be able to make these choices. And you look at this, Don Peralta puts up, according to John Lund, who was in the room next to the draft room, when the Moody pick went down, Kyle was pissed, storming out, saying, "I wanted a running back."
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Then if that's true, if that was a Lynch pick, see, that's where I'm really confused. John Lynch is a Hall of Fame safety. He's a physical player. You would think that he would understand physicality is important. His championship with Tampa Bay was on a physical defensive line that manhandled that Raider team that was finesse. Manhandled them. They were just too physical for them. So you would think the GM of our team would understand that the trenches are where games are won and lost, and not just on the defensive side, on the offensive side. So, I mean, I'm just trying to use the process of elimination. If Lynch kind of thinks that way, then who else in the building is saying, no, we don't need offensive linemen? Because it's not just Kyle. I don't want to think that I'm just coming down on Kyle. Their offensive line coach thinks that way, Forster. He's the one that comes out here saying Jake Brendel is an excellent player. No, he's not, man. No, he's not.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get that. Yeah, it's got to. They've got to get to the place where they focus on the offensive line. Look, we were all laughing at Nick Sirianni, right, a couple of years ago when they had the meltdown. Their final, would they lose like 5 of their last 6 or something? They still got into the playoffs, and then they lost. Then they come back last year and win the Super Bowl. That offense and defensive lines of the Eagles is massive. And they have good skill receivers. I mean, players, but they are loaded at the offensive line. And then they just keep adding to it. And the Niners' philosophy is this zone read type offensive lineman that can get out there and move. Give me the guys like Jeremy Newberry at center instead of a Jake Brendel, who's a little lighter. I want a mean center that can take up some space and move some bodies around, because these guys that are, Trent Williams in his prime, or even go back a couple of years, is a mean offensive lineman. He may be a really nice guy and talking to him, but you put the pads and the helmet on him. He's not a guy that you want to encounter, man. He's just a tough dude. That's what you want to find, is guys that are big, strong, and today most of them are all mobile. There's very few guys that are just bricks, that are just a statue. These guys can get around.
When you mention the best offensive lineman of all time, Jackie Slater comes to mind. Larry Allen comes to mind.
Yeah, with the Cowboys, he was on that 90s offensive line that Aaron's talking about with Nate Newton. Yeah,
Dwight Stevenson comes to mind. I mean, none of these guys were run outside zone linemen. They were physical. There's just sometimes that you just need to line up, and the guy in front of you, you knock him back to get a yard. At a key point, at a 4th and 1, you notice the Niners a lot on 4th and 1, 4th and 2. They can't run the ball. They cannot throw it on 4th and 2. Why is that? Why is that? Because the element of surprise is not there. It's 11 defenders lining up against your 10 guys. Quarterback obviously is behind the center, and they're going to push you back. And it's just, again, it comes out to physicality. That's something the Niners do not believe in, with the exception of Trent Williams. But the last time I checked, a car can't run good if it has one good tire.
Yeah.
You need 4.
Yeah.
The Niners spend money on a great stereo system and a sunroof and all this, razzle dazzle stuff, but their tires suck, and a car can't run without good tires. 4 of them, and 5 if you want to talk about the spare.
Yep, the spare. I've heard Larry talk about building, a foundation, with a house. You don't just put, the 2x4s up and everything without a solid foundation. Your offensive line is the foundation of your offense. I can remember the Giants. I keep saying 49ers offensive line back in the days when they had Bubba Paris, right? He was a big dude, right? He was, back then he was even bigger, and then you had Steve Wallace that was a pretty big guy too.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm really glad you mentioned that, Dan, because why? Sorry to interrupt, but the Niners, when they first won their Super Bowls early with Walsh, they had smaller linemen that could move,
right?
And they wanted an 81 and they wanted an 84, and then
they got crushed by the Giants and Bears.
Bingo, Dan. They got smashed by the 85 Bears, the 86 Giants. And then they had the best record in football, the best offensive football, and then the Vikings smashed them in the playoffs because they were too physical.
Right.
And you know what Walsh did? He said, by the way.
Yeah, I love it.
Wearing the man. Walsh said, okay, what we did in 81 and 84 worked, and teams made adjustments.
Right.
And they're just more physical than us. So then he started drafting, like you said, Steve Wallace, who was a 290, 300-pound lineman. Before, they were just getting by with 255-pound tackles. That didn't work. The league caught up with them, and Walsh pivoted. He changed, and he went to Bubba Paris and Steve Wallace. And, he still had Randy Cross and Zapulu. They were a little mobile, but his tackles were bigger. Right. He made an adjustment. And I think Kyle – Harris Barton. Harris Barton. Yeah, thank you. Forgot about Harris Barton. Yeah. Great tackle. Right tackle out of North Carolina, 310 pounds. Yeah. I think, I'm not going to say the league is caught up to Kyle, but his offense is not fooling anybody anymore. Everybody runs motion, and he runs outside zone. So this is when I think, as a coach, the great coaches are the ones that adapt and change things up. And I've never said Kyle's a bad coach. I said he's a good coach. But when I get a lot of pushback that say that he's great, I don't agree, because great coaches change and adapt on the fly, year to year, game to game. Still
Yeah,
win.
you notice a lot of the plays that the 49ers used to run, like you said, the league's catching up to some of those schemes. And maybe some of it's just lack of talent, lack of offensive line protection to be able to run these plays. But a lot of the swing outs, the wide receiver screens and the things they're not getting very many yards anymore.
No.
The run after the catch hasn't been there the last year and a half. I mean, Debo was kind of going downhill. We kind of saw it a little bit he had the one big game in the 23, was it 24? When did they beat the 23? Yeah, 23 season when they went to Philly and crushed him, and he had all those touchdowns, and they were playing really well. That was the year they got revenge that was the year they went to the Super Bowl, right? 23, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, but last year Debo was, things just weren't working. The 49ers receivers, even their receivers now, they don't separate. And this is why you see Brock, throwing it up there for 50-50 balls, because those receivers, when you had Jerry Rice and you had Taylor, and then the
T.O.
other teams, T.O. always open,
Always.
open.
They didn't need a scheme to get them open. They were good enough to get open
Right.
by themselves.
I'm excited for Robinson when he comes back in game 4, because, and then if Pearsall stays healthy, you get Robinson in there, and maybe you get Kendrick Bourne that still has it a little bit and can get open, hopefully. I don't know, but I'm excited more about Robinson, and then of course the kid from Mississippi. What's the rookie?
Jordan Watkins.
Watkins. He
I
comes
like him.
back.
I like him.
As long as you got 3 receivers that can get themselves open on any play. Right now, the only guy that they have that seems to get open is Pearsall. And
Yeah.
you watch the Saints this Sunday. You watch their game plan. If I'm scheming and I'm game planning for the Niners, I'm watching film and I see the 49ers receivers can't separate, I'm going to double team Ricky Pearsall. You have no tight end like Kittle now. Tonjes is good, but he's not Kittle. Okay. You can, and if Jennings even plays, he's not a deep threat. So you just stop, jam him and get a backer in the vision of the throw and act as a kind of a semi double team where he's in the pass pattern, and your corners should probably be able to stay with Juwan. You don't have to worry about the deep threat. And then with the offensive line, you definitely don't have to worry about a deep threat because you don't get enough protection.
Right.
Now, they did against that last drive with Pearsall. They hung in there. They gave Purdy enough time for Pearsall to make that double move, which was beautiful. But if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm watching this, I'm not going to let Ricky Pearsall beat me. And I'm going to make somebody else beat me with this kind of makeshift wide receiver group that the Niners have.
I would totally, if I was the Saints, stack the line, have 8 in the box, 9 in the box maybe, to take away McCaffrey, hit him as many times as possible, and I would press Pearsall. As good as Pearsall is, he's better when he's in motion and he gets a free release because he's not very physical.
Right.
He has a lot of shimmy, but if a physical corner is on him and gets their hands on him and redirects him, he can struggle a little bit. So if they come up with that kind of a game plan, I don't know who their D coordinator is, but that's going to make it a little bit harder because, again, the O-line is going to be, pushed back and pressed, and Mac Jones is not mobile. And speaking of roster moves, that was another puzzling one to me. Like, you didn't want to pay Jordan Mason, who is a very physical back. And, the Niners for a long time under Kyle were known as a physical team. They've kind of lost that. And you had a number 2 running back who was very physical. I mean, you saw him on Monday night. He looked better than Aaron Jones. He runs through people, and he brings that physicality. Brian Robinson is not as good as Jordan Mason. So they didn't want to pay Jordan Mason $5 million, but you just gave $5 million to Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne was okay when he was here and in his prime.
Right. That was 2019, though.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, Saleh, to show you how good of a defensive head coach we know, so far he didn't do too well, but it was the Jets, so who knows. But as a coach, Saleh has young players and he's teaching them. He's grooming them. Whereas on the offensive side of the football, it's like, let's bring back guys. Let's bring back Juice at $4 million a year because he knows my offense and he rarely touches the ball. Let's bring back Kendrick Bourne. Now, I think when Jordan Watkins gets established and if they give him some run, he's a much better player than Kendrick Bourne is right now. But they tend to lean towards the older player that knows Kyle's offense. And that, to me, I think is average at best.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking at this particular headline that I'm seeing here, and it's Jordan Mason has a 3.86 average yards after contact. It was the best mark a Vikings running back has posted since O'Connell was hired in 2022. The headline of this article, Los, and this is such roster politics again. Vikings running back Jordan Mason establishing himself as the bell cow Minnesota wanted. Let me just put that up on the screen for everybody to see. That's an article in The Athletic. Look at how many yards did he end up with last week? Do you know, Jordan Mason?
I want to say 70 or 80. I would be a total guess. I mean, he had some good runs, and he finishes plays. I mean,
that's 3.6 yards after contact. The Niners averaged 3.1 yards per rush last week.
When you have a physical running back that just keeps pounding away, and the Eagles proved this in the Super Bowl. Look, Barkley did not have a good game in the Super Bowl if you look at just his stats.
Right.
But football is more than stats. They kept pounding away at that Chiefs line, at that defensive line with their big offensive line. And they weren't breaking off 8, 10-yard runs. They were breaking off 3 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, and then they get a first down with the pass. But they stayed with the run, something Kyle doesn't do. He does not stay with the run when he has a lead. And Philly kept pounding away. They knew they were not getting a lot of yards. But third and fourth quarter, Kansas City's D-line was tired. And that's when they hit them deep, and that's when they put the game away. And that's what Jordan Mason does. In the history of football, when you have a big physical back, you may be all, froggy and hitting him and knocking him back and standing over him and talking mess in the first quarter and the second quarter. He keeps pounding away at you over and over. Third or fourth quarter, you're too tired. You're not saying one damn thing. And I think it was a huge mistake to let that kid go. I think he's a hell of a back.
I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. He's young. He was inexpensive. And when I look at the highlights of him, he was last week, he ran the ball 15 times and for 68 yards, and he averaged 4.5 yards a carry. Now let's contrast that with Christian McCaffrey last week. McCaffrey, instead of 15 rushes, he ran the ball 22 times for 69 yards, one more yard for a 3.1. So 7 more catches or touches running the ball. And this is an issue that I can see being a huge problem down the road. You can't give McCaffrey 22 rushing attempts and 9 receptions. That's 31 touches. He's going to be done by week 5 if at that pace. You got to
It's gonna happen again this weekend. He's all they got.
Yeah. How about mixing it up? A little bit of Robinson, a little bit of Garendo. Why do we have to just keep look? If the offensive line is not opening up huge gaping holes for McCaffrey, you're just running him into the ground,
Right.
Into a pile. That's why you needed a guy like Mason.
Yep.
I mean, Garendo has potential, but he's also very inexperienced. Mason is the kind of guy that you love because, I think his fate was sealed last year on opening night when he had that huge night. And
against the Jets.
Yeah, and they asked him reporters asked him, hey, when did you know that you were going to be the starter? And you're like, oh, yeah, Friday, and they were playing this whole McCaffrey thing all the way up till game time that he was, like he's not going to play. And that they didn't even – but – and then you heard Kyle kind of reprimand him afterwards, and he was like, oh, he was pissed. I don't even want to talk now. I just tell the truth and I get in trouble.
I think that's spot on. I think because he didn't use proper etiquette,
right,
and do the right thing about what you do at a press conference, and Dom Peralta in the chat, what's up, Dom, said it best. Once Kyle has an opinion on you, that's it. Like, again, that's where the stubbornness comes in. That's it. Once he thinks a certain way about you and you're in his doghouse, you're pretty much done. Ayuk, I think, is one of the few guys that was in Kyle's doghouse that was able to get out of it. But to let go of a talented player that wouldn't cost you a lot of money because of something like that, or somebody else mentioned maybe he wasn't a great practice player. And then somebody else said, well, he fumbled. Well, Christian McCaffrey fumbled in the Super Bowl when it counted the most.
Yeah.
Like, why do when some of the superstar favorite players do something bad, it's just like dismissed? Like, no, man, if you're going to hold like our $2 million back accountable because he fumbled against Arizona, I'm going to hold my $19 million running back accountable when at the biggest game of his career, he did not play well. Him and Trent did not play well against the Chiefs. Those are two of our best. And that was what the Niners always did when they won Super Bowls, Danny. Our best players played their best in the big games. Yeah. You think about the Niners' losses in big games recently, and our best players did not play their best. A lot of them didn't.
Those wide receivers were non-existent against Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
Shut down.
Just completely shut down.
Yep.
And they didn't have an answer. And that's where you have to, they were pressing man coverage. And that's where you have to be a little bit more creative. And it's just,
Kittle was the mismatch in that game.
Yeah. Yep. He was.
But he was kept in the block. Why? Because they don't have an offensive line.
Right. So I don't know. Very frustrating to me, Los, because I thought Jordan Mason, look, after 4 weeks, I think last year, he was the leading rusher in the NFL. And he was like doing great. And then I would have never expected a year later he's gone. But again, you're talking the politics of the room. Mason was exactly what they need, a guy that, especially for this offensive line. Why? Because what did I just read? 3.6 yards after
he's hit
contact. And where do the Niners backs get hit? At the line of scrimmage right now. At the line of scrimmage or in the backfield.
Did you see Seattle's defense wear down last weekend? Or were they hitting just as hard in the third and fourth quarter? McCaffrey was getting knocked back. He was getting gang tackled. Because McCaffrey's, as great as he is, He's not a physical back. He's a fast, quick back, and he's a great receiver. I wish they would use him in the slot more often, to be honest. And you know who might be the sleeper to help us out here, Dan, is the rookie from Oregon, Jordan James.
Yeah.
He's a physical running back, and naturally he got hurt in camp.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to see him. Now, I don't know if he's as good as Mason, but in watching his film at Oregon, he's a pretty physical back. He's got a
they're going to need
huge he's got huge legs, lower body, so he could be something.
That's what they need, because Mason, I mean, I'm not saying he was anything like the beast Marshawn Lynch, but he had a similar build, but he was quicker. Mason was explosive through a hole, and then he just was hard to bring down. I mean, but the Niners just I don't know. I don't know if
that's frustrating as a fan base when we all see a guy that is playing well and for whatever reason he's not playing. Like last year, we all saw Devondre Campbell was not a good linebacker.
Yeah.
We all in the preseason saw it, said, this guy's a freaking mannequin. He's stiff as hell. He's not going to cover anybody.
Not Stone Sorensen.
Yeah. Why isn't D. Winters playing? And maybe D. Winters, again, wasn't a great practice player. It wasn't this or wasn't that. But D. Winters, as you can see a year later, was a much better player than Campbell was. But again, they signed him as a free agent. They gave him some guaranteed money. And that's one thing I can't stand about roster politics is when you draft a guy high or you give a guy big money, even if he sucks, because we drafted him high and because we gave him big money, we have to play him. No, you don't. No, you don't. Put the best 22 guys on the field, 11 on offense, 11 on defense. I always throw that analogy of Flynn from Seattle, who they gave big money to as a free agent.
From Green Bay. He was great. Matt Flynn was unbelievable with Rodgers' replacement one year.
They gave him a big contract, and they drafted Russell Wilson in the third round.
Third round, yeah.
Russell Wilson was going to be the backup. And then they got to camp, and Russell Wilson just outplayed him. And you know what the Seahawks did? See you later, Matt Flynn. I can't remember if they cut him or if he was the backup.
He was the backup.
Russell Wilson was the starter. Now that's old school. Play the best guys. F politics. F where you were drafted, and F that we gave you a certain amount of money. And I see roster politics on the Niners far too often.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another thought. Oh, here's my other thought. How about instead of Juice in the backfield, how about if we put Brian Robinson and McCaffrey and send McCaffrey in motion more and put him out on a linebacker with a head of steam going? They can't stop McCaffrey. Yeah. And you get yourself 4-5 yards. Use that as your running for a while. I'd rather see McCaffrey go in motion or just move to a little bit of the slot and get 4 or 5 yards instead of rushing them up the middle. You know what that'll do also? That'll soften the defensive line and open up the running game. But no, we just run, boom, 4-6, 46, just straight up the gut and get 2 yards in a cloud of dust, and bang. And then we do that how many times? 22 for McCaffrey. And we just wear this guy out. This guy's not built for that.
Kyle thinks that he has Larry Allen and Quentin Nelson at guards to just be able to run up the middle.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. You have Jake Brendel and Ben Barch. And Pooney's solid, but that's your weakness. Like, run behind Trent once he gets in shape and loses weight.
Yeah.
And McKivitz is a solid run blocker for what it's worth. But up the middle, that just doesn't make any sense. You're running a smaller running back who you cannot get hurt up the middle with offensive linemen that are smaller and not physical and can't get push.
Yeah, they just have to get a little creative. I'd like to see, and I'm watching Juice play and I'm seeing him as a lead blocker and I'm like, really? You can't get a tight end to do that job?
I know. I did not like him coming back at all.
Yeah. I mean, he's not – look, he's good for occasional, like he got the long pass the other day that was on the flat out there. Use him in situations where he's more of a where he's not expected, and you get, a 10, 12-yard gain. But he's I don't know. I'm just thinking that they've got to get more creative with McCaffrey out in the passing game. They went to him 9 times. It was great. Yes. Okay. I'd much rather see him catch 22 balls than run him up 22 times. Now that's not going to ever happen, but
I haven't seen the play where the wide receiver comes around like a jet sweep and you fake it to him and then you hit McCaffrey up the middle, or you give it to the wide receiver to go around, just as a misdirection type of play. That was one of Kyle's great plays. I haven't seen it. Do you remember a running play, Dan, called the draw play?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Kyle run that in 9 years here? A draw play is a play that slows a pass rush down, because you basically, as an offensive lineman, you let the lineman rush upfield. The quarterback kind of hesitates and then gives it to the running back right up the middle, kind of on a delay. Right. And that and a screen pass to the running back, not the wide receiver, are great plays to call to slow down a pass rush. I did see, and I'm going to give Kyle love here, so take notes. I did see McCaffrey get some running back screens at certain angles last week, and they were nice plays. I loved seeing that. I've been wanting to see McCaffrey get running back screens, up the middle, not, let everybody come in and then just drop it over them and get in front of them.
Yeah,
that's a great play.
I think that the Niners are going to really have to look at this option of, if they can't get the running game going until Trent really gets in shape, you might have to use the short passing game to pick up 4 yards on first down. 4 to 5 yards, so that you're not 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. You got to get yourself out of this 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6 crap. The game really has changed. And if the Eagles get to 3rd and 2, they're getting a first down. The 49ers get 3rd and 2. They're probably punting if they're on the wrong side of the field. The Eagles get to 3rd and 2 at midfield. They're going to get the first down.
Physical. Physical football. And the Niners and Kyle have struggled against certain defensive coordinators. Jim Schwartz and the coordinator for the Vikings. I think he's 1-9 against the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, and Ravens. I mean, somebody maybe look that up, but he's 1-9 against those dominant AFC teams. So everybody that wants the Niners to get to the Super Bowl at Levi's at home, you're not going to be facing the Saints. You're not going to be facing some scrub team. Kyle's kryptonite is those powerhouse AFC teams, because they're not only physical, they also have playmakers. They have both. And that's why the Niners are not a good matchup for those teams. Not yet. Let them build and do some things, and maybe they'll get back in there.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. What's your prediction this weekend with the Saints Niners?
Yeah, I think they kind of pull it out, something like maybe 23-14, 23-16, kind of a low scoring game, playing field position. I don't see Kyle going for it too much. I mean, he usually doesn't, but if they're at midfield and it's 4th or 1, 4th or 2, I don't think he's going to go for it, because I think he feels comfortable that he can, punt it and get it back, and the Niners defense can win this game. This game is going to be on the Niners defense to win it. The offense just needs to do enough to be able to get by. So I see him pulling it out like maybe 23-14, something like that.
Okay, not bad. I'm going to go 20-16 49ers. 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns for the Niners, and 1 touchdown and 3 field goals.
3 from Eddie.
No, for the Saints. 2 for
the Saints. Oh, he's 16. Yeah. Okay, 2 for Eddie.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna say something like 20-16. and it's see how it goes. It would be nice. I'd love if George is right. George Curry says 31-13 Niners. That would be nice. It would be nice to see this team respond in a way with some adversity facing them, with Purdy, with Kittle, with Ayuk out, with several of the others. It would, I'm sure Mac Jones would love to make some statements in his playing chances that says, hey, look, I may not be the starting quarterback here, but I got a 2-year deal. I may be able to set myself up for a big, huge payday if I show that what I can do with a good team.
Yeah, good point. This is a 2 or 3 week audition for him to be
At
able to
least.
show he's
I would say at least, yeah.
because he doesn't have a lot of his weapons. So if he puts up good numbers without having his best weapons, that's
Yeah.
going to bode well for him. But
Mark, don't put that out there in the
man, I was just going to say, I hope you're right, George, that it's 31-13. But right now, as it stands, the Niners, out of the 3 categories, offense, defense, and special teams, the only one that's doing well and playing well is the defense. And I know it's one weekend, but the special teams was a disaster last weekend. And that's a little surprising to me because this special teams coordinator is got a very good reputation of being good. So maybe it's a work in progress.
I think they cleaned it up.
I think so too.
I think Moody was not a cancer in the sense of him being a bad dude or anything, but he was a somewhat of a downer with that kicking game. And now the second kick that was blocked was not his fault. That was clearly the line broke down there. But I think Panero's a veteran. He's been in the league for 4 or 5 years. He's played on a few different teams. I think you get new blood in there and gives the team confidence, and that could be huge. The other thing that's going to play a factor this year is you got to be able to put that ball. Ideally, if you can pin it between the 1 yard line and the 5 yard line and get some loft on the ball, so it's taking a while before it comes down, kickers should be able to get that ball high enough in the air. And even if it ends at the 8 yard line, putting it in the end zone with this new rule brings it out to the 35. I mean, I am going to try every opportunity, right, to get that ball. I mean, if you're the receiving team, you want that ball to go in the end zone in the air, because you're at the 35 yard line. You're literally, in today's game, you are at the 35, 15. You get it to the team's 40, you're in field goal range. That's a 57-yarder with most kickers today.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to travel 25 yards. My goodness, they've made this game. I mean, remember we used to be at the 20?
I know. God.
Now we're going out to the 35. Golly, what are they going to do next year? Bring it out to the 40?
I know. They're doing and making rules to help the
offense. The one thing that pisses me off with football, and then we'll get out of here. It's one of my pet peeves is, we've got 2 fouls on the defense. One is offsides. The other is holding, and it's 3rd and 20. Automatic first down.
Yeah.
I mean, are you serious? We're going to get
5 yards is 5 yards. Yeah.
Defensive holding, but 5 it is always first down, and offensive holding. Yeah, it's like we'll see. We'll see.
That right there kind of falls back to what I said a little while ago, Dan, is like the game and the rules are all pushed towards helping the offense. and yet you as a regime in a front office insist on drafting defensive linemen, not offensive linemen. When the league is obviously, that is just one example. We could talk about a lot more. You can't touch the quarterback. You see Patrick Mahomes right now, like corners and players are, when he's running toward the sidelines, don't want to hit him because they're going to get a flag. He knows this, so he lowers his shoulder and he lights them up.
Oh, I'm gonna knock him out. I'm gonna knock him out.
You know what? Lay him out and take the 15-yard penalty.
Hey, it doesn't matter if his feet are in the field of play. You can knock him flying.
Thank you.
That's part of the rules. I am going to knock him 10 yards into the sidelines. Don't even play with that. Don't get faked out. What was it? Who was the Niner last year that he was going out of bounds? He looked like he faked going out of bounds, and the Niner kind of just gave up, and he sprinted up for another.
I know the play you're talking about. I can't remember who fell for that. The banana in the tailpipe fell for it.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, before we get out of here, I just want your opinion on a couple of teams in the NFC.
Okay.
We kind of know who the big boys are. Green Bay looks really good. Philly looks real good. I'm curious as what you have to say about Tampa and Detroit. What do you think about either of those guys?
You know, I like Tampa this year. I really do. And I think interesting with Detroit. I had to make my picks tonight in the season pool that I'm in. I had 5 different pools, and one of the pools is to pick which team you think is going to have, which quarterback's going to have the most yards passing for that particular week, and you can only pick them once. So I'm looking at all the teams, and I'm going, Ben Johnson's coming to Detroit with the Bears. Don't you think that OC wants to light it up Sunday on the Bears? So I picked Detroit because I think there's something to prove this Sunday for Detroit, that they can still light it up and score points, and they're going to want to bury the Bears. They're going to want to bury the Bears. They're going to want to beat Chicago by 3 scores. Okay.
I like that way of thinking. And it's so true because it's happened that way in football. I've told that story about the Niners were tired of hearing how Walsh had everything to do with them winning, and he retired, and they were like, oh, what's going to happen to the Niners? And Seifert came in, and it's funny, ironically, the 2 best teams in Niners history are arguably the 94 and the 89 teams. And those were not Walsh teams. Those were Seifert teams.
Yeah.
Those were Seifert teams. Those were not. So that's why when I heard this narrative over the last few years is we can't get rid of Kyle. It's like, why? Like, talent, if the Niners keep their talent and they stay healthy, I mean, you'd have to be a complete buffoon idiot of a coach to not win with this talent. So that's a perfect example, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, Ben Johnson got a lot of credit for Detroit being this, and he is a great X's and O's guys, but the guy I think that is now the offensive coordinator is Johnny Morton, learned under him. So, you know, he's got some of his –
see how it goes. And Johnny –
got his tricks, yeah.
Johnny Cesari says Detroit screwed this year, Lowe's. They lost both coordinators and have a first-place schedule in a tough division. He'd be surprised if they won 9 games. Yeah, I'm just talking about this week only. I like Detroit, but I would tend to agree with you. I think Detroit's going to battle to make the playoffs just because, you know, teams are gunning for them. You get that first-place schedule versus the Patsy Niners schedule this year. Huge difference.
Yep.
And so we'll see how that goes. Hey, guys, that's going to do it for us. But, hey, Sunday afternoon, the Niners postgame show will be held right here on NorCal Sports Network. Niners take on the New Orleans Saints, and that game is at 10 o'clock this Sunday. So come back here about 1 o'clock to 1:15 right here on NorCal Sports Network. There will be a post-game show. And, you know, Larry, I go on Larry's show quite a bit. Larry will be down in New Orleans this week, him and Kev. So I would think the post-game will get pushed back a little bit their show. So if you want to get Niners early post-game coverage, you available, Los, Sunday afternoon?
I might be. Yeah, I
Okay.
got a little something to do, but I might be
Okay.
around. Let you
Okay.
know.
So you guys bring it back right here, and make sure you do hit that like button on this channel. If you're not subscribed to NorCal Sports, we cover Niners football. We cover Giants baseball after every game. In fact, the Giants take on the Dodgers tomorrow night at Oracle Park, a 7:15 start. We will be here about 10 o'clock tomorrow night, right after Giants Dodgers. Hey, and we were laughing a few weeks ago, most of us, at the Giants. They are 1.5 back of the Mets, technically 2.5. So they're going to have to win 2 of 3 this weekend. So they've got 2 teams to worry about, the Mets and the Reds.
I'll say one comment out the door on the Giants is I had them at 78 and 84, but I had a but in there, and Danny knows it. I said if they stay with old players, they'll be 78 and 84. If they actually commit to young guys, they'll be all right. So I've had a few people like reach out to me and say, Los, you said they were 78 and 84. And I said, no, listen to what I said. They've committed to Drew Gilbert. They've committed to Luis Matos. They've committed to young guys. So I did say, but if they do that, they'll be better. So, if you know your shit, you must have quit. So I'm quit.
Love it. There it is, guys. All right. Thank you for being here. This is NorCal Sports Network. All right, guys. Great show. We have over 750 watching. Many of you are watching over on X. Make sure you come on over to YouTube and come on over and subscribe. Like and subscribe the video on YouTube. We'd love to have you join. We're a growing channel. We've got over 5,300 subs, and nobody, and I mean nobody, covers San Francisco Giants baseball like we do here at NorCal Sports.
Who's got it better than us, Danny?
Nobody. There we go. Yeah. Hey, it's a there's some good shows out there. There's some good content creators out there. Giant Sports Talk Live, Even Year Dynasty, Glenn Kuiper. Hey, look, they're all Marty Lurie. They're all doing great jobs out there with the Giants. We're part of the family. We want to keep bringing that to you. But don't forget, we're called NorCal Sports Network for a reason, because we're not just a Giants station. We are a 49ers station and a Warriors station. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.